Namaste. I'm Suresh Ratan, and I'm very happy to participate in this International Association of Gerontology and Geriatrics European Region Symposium within the British Geriatrics Society's virtual conference. I will be talking for about 10, 11 minutes on the mechanisms of hormesis. This term hormesis is the one which I introduced yesterday in my longer talk on aging, an overview of the aging. Now, hormesis is basically the relationship between stress and health, biphasic relationship, because usually we talk about stress always in negative terms, that stress is bad and harmful and we should avoid at every cost. But actually, in reality, for the biological systems, stress, a mild and repeated stress, is health beneficial. And there are hundreds of studies showing this phenomena. So this phenomena where low level and repeated stress of choice, for the sake of human being stress of choice, we use the term, but in experimental systems, it's a mild stress, has health beneficial effects. And in the literature, maybe you are aware of many other terms like biphasic dose response, U-shaped response, inverted U-shape, adaptive response, compensatory response, adaptive homeostasis. These are all the terms basically trying to say that this traditional linear curve between toxicity, either with a threshold or without threshold, are actually not valid curves. The real curves for almost all so-called toxic things, whether it's radiation or pollution or pharmacological agents and other toxic agents, is biphasic. It's very different from homeopathy. Homeopathy is which claims to work 10 orders of magnitude below Avogadro number. It is not that principle. Here the principle is that in a dose response curve, low level of stress or exposure to stress inducing agents, which we call hormetins, has potentially health beneficial effects. And how do we measure health? That will depend upon the model system and the experimental system. So the terminology has been further refined in the last 15 years or so, that we call either, say, conditioning hormesis, where you first give a low level, which makes the system stronger to tolerate high level of stress later. It's called the preconditioning or adapting dose. Then there is no conditioning, like you just give a mild level and then you will get the benefits again and again. That is called the physiological hormesis. And the third one is post-conditioning, that first you have exposed to severe stress, but then you can follow it up with smaller levels of stress and you get benefits. In the case of aging, which is our main theme for this conference, aging deals mostly with the physiological hormesis, which is no conditioning, but a low level of stress given, which will strengthen homeodynamics and you will get benefits. But in order to go there, that how do we use hormesis and what are its mechanisms? Just a quick reminder of what have we learned about aging. I talked in great detail in my previous lecture that what have we learned about biological aging? What we know is aging happens in every individual who lives beyond the species' essential lifespan. And this period of aging and old age, that's happening due to intrinsic reasons because of the imperfections. It's progressive, it happens more and more. It's impairing, it's generally loss of function or the dysregulation of function, and happens in all individuals. Then the second is evolution allows aging to happen, but it has not made any genes to cause it. So there is no program for aging, although it may look like as if there are clocks and programs and determinants, but no, aging is happening randomly, stochastically, within the framework of the life history of that species or the organism, the way bodies are made. So aging is very heterogeneous. That's the third part, that it happens at a very individualistic level all the way down to the molecules. So there is not one size fits all, even within the same individual, not to talk about the population. So these are the basic three factors about aging, within which then we think hormesis is a very powerful and potentially very successful approach for intervening in the aging process the way we would like to do that. And that is, again, because aging is primarily this shrinkage of the homeodynamic space. Our ability to tolerate stress is reduced during aging period. Our ability to repair and remove any molecular damage is reduced during aging. Our ability to adapt and remodel. That is the concept of homeodynamics and the shrinkage of the homeodynamic. So if we want to intervene in the aging, we need these holistic approaches. And hormesis is a kind of a holistic approach where a low-level repeated exposure to stress is beneficial. And the paradigm for that is physical exercise. Exercise is primarily a stress-inducing activity. When we exercise, what happens? We produce millions of more free radicals. We produce acids. Our cells die. So those kind of interventions require this holistic approach. Hormesis strengthens the homeodynamic space because it is a challenge and we have those survival mechanisms. And what are those survival mechanisms? For hormetins, which are the various agents, physical hormetins, exercise, radiation, hypoxia, mental hormetins. Yeah, like hypoxia, basically just last week, there is a claim from the space research that hypoxia prolongs telomeres, a kind of an anti-aging marker. Or nutritional hormetins. A lot of things in the food which we eat are hormetins. They induce damage. I will give you some examples. In our own labs for the last 25 years or so, we have been working tremendously using the cell culture model of the Hayflick system, the cellular aging and senescence, where we have studied aging, health span, wound healing, differentiation, angiogenesis, tolerance to other stresses. And we have used hormetins or stressors, heat shock, various phytochemicals, fasting of the cells or serum starvation, even stress hormones and nanoparticles. Now, why hormesis works? The topic of this talk was mechanisms. Mechanisms are that our every cell has major these 7 stress response pathways to varying degrees. Like if there is oxidative stress, we activate antioxidant response. If we have DNA damage happening, then there's a DNA repair response. If there is nutritional deficiency, there is autophagic response. If there is energy deficiency, there is sirtuin response. Heat shock response for protein denaturation, and inflammatory response when there are infections. And these are 7 major stress responses which are very well studied. Each response, we know what stressors can induce it, what is the initial response, and what is the effector response. So that's a huge area of molecular biology for which I don't have time to go into. But we know a lot about how stresses are interpreted by the cell, first and foremost, in order to counteract the damaging effects. If the stress is too much, like any other stress, then it is harmful. It will kill the cell and the body and everything. But if system can handle the stress through one or more of these pathways, then you get the beneficial effects. And that is the paradigm of the mechanisms of hormesis. Like some major examples in the food research these days, all these things like curcumin in turmeric, yeah, or fisetin in apples, or quercetin, or resveratrol. Often in the literature, people use the word antioxidants. None of them is a direct antioxidant. Like curcumin is called as antioxidant because we see antioxidative end result. But curcumin itself induces oxidative damage and activates NRF2 pathways, which will then stimulate hundreds of antioxidant genes. Same thing is about, for example, resveratrol. It works through sirtuin pathways, or quercetin, or this fisetin, which they call now even a senolytic. They are primarily hormetins, but we keep using this traditional word antioxidant, which is actually wrong. These are all hormetins. And there is a huge area of research, both from the commercial side and basic research, where they're searching for new powerful hormetins. And I had written this paper a couple of years ago that if you are interested in making new discoveries of how to discover new hormetins, this is how you have to start. Start with a cell culture of your choice. Start with 1 or 7 simultaneous stress response pathways and how you study their early response, how you study their later response, and then take it to cell type specificity. And that's how you build potential hormetin, which can be then developed into commercial products. And actually cosmetic industry is one of the first one who has used this strategy to develop certain hormetic skincare products. So the mechanism is primarily to induce the damage, low level damage, but repeated exposure. Just like, remember, exercise. Exercise give a small benefit every time you do it, but the real benefits, biological ones, are holistic. Same thing about spices. Spices are those things, polyphenols, flavonoids. So hormetic pathways and hormetins, in aging research, they are being rapidly and very rapidly being accepted by lots and lots of scientists and even commercial setups to develop new so-called anti-aging products. I don't like to call them anti-aging products because it is not the reversion of aging which we are talking about. It is basically maintaining health, recovering health, and even enhancing health by strengthening the homeodynamic space, our ability to survive, our ability to adapt, our ability to take care of the damage coming from within and from outside. So Hormesis is a biogerontological research area which is now being extended to physiology and even to psychology and social research areas. So Hormesis as aging intervention is very promising. Thank you very much.